Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, being aware of how we learn and looking at it holistically. What is UDL? UDL, which stands for Universal Design for Learning, is a structure of teaching meant to promote and redefine inclusive education. Develop teaching skills by adding variation in presenting, applying, and thinking critically about new information for students. CAST, or Center for Applied Special Technology, defines it as a framework for intentionally, proactively, and reflectively addressing the learning needs of diverse and exceptional learners in the classroom. It makes for better learners due to its accessibility to all. The UDL design is presenting 3 principles by which it stands. Each of them is showing where exactly in the brain this principle is being manipulated and what it requires of the educator by showing what the goal is for the student. The 3 principles are representation, what of learning, action and expression, the how of learning, and engagement, the why of learning. Representation is looked at as what is it that I need to learn. It evokes the part of the brain that stores cognitive processing, the language and terminology, and what the student is perceiving exactly. As a teacher, you must think of ways in which you spotlight key concepts, showing them in various ways, including visual aids or through auditory support, considering that some students learn from seeing, others from hearing, and many from the making of a concept in a physical way, such as structuring and constructing a tool. Don't forget to give time to absorb the new information. Action and expression addresses how would it be best for students to express what they are learning. It can be shown through modeling what they learned by creating something new, or showing a new strategy of thinking through the educator's examples, and it must be supported with feedback and free of stereotypes and preconceived assumptions. The teacher would remove all barriers and stereotypes and allow students to create a product of their understanding freely, as noted by the review of Paiva, Van Munster, and Gonsalves of the 2019 review. That only when the UDL system was discussed in a more action-forward manner were teachers able to understand it and apply it more tactically in the classroom and in students' work. Engagement is the third concept in which students are to gain an understanding of why they are learning the material. Here, the educator needs to find what motivates students to gain more knowledge and have students relate to the concept in some way. In the early years classroom, having students choose how to express their learning builds on their own motivation for learning, and it can also be done so when they feel they are responsible for their own learning and their attitude towards it. This is why promoting students' learning by offering them a challenge will better drive them to practice what they have learned conceptually. As told by Paiva, Van Munster, and Gonsalves in their review, it's important to give students choices to fuel their interests and autonomy. Supports all kinds of learners with all kinds of abilities and limitations, and reduces inappropriate behaviors by students with disabilities. This hands-on approach to learning leads to a deeper conceptual understanding for preschool children. As well, it is important to offer opportunities to work independently, but also collaboratively with other students and create projects and assignments that allow for active participation, creativity, individual expression, and exploration. On this slide, you will see a clip from the popular TV show Friends, in which one of the main characters is seeking advice on how to teach for the very first time in a university-level lecture hall. How can you connect the principles of UDL to this video?
Further subcategorized into these...
Why don't you open with a joke?
Open with a joke? It's a university, not a comedy club.
Wait a minute, hold the phone. You're not talking about Chuckles University?
Okay.
No,
We're kidding.
We're kidding.
Ross, hey, you know what might make it less boring?
Thank you.
Some visual aids.
Educators already practice and have been practicing the concepts of UDL and simply were not aware of it. UDL has been applied for over 2 decades, even though it hasn't been a topic of research for that long. Research findings applied based on the UDL principles on students have shown better improvement in the world of inclusion. UDL originally came from the architecture field, where buildings were restructured to include people who use wheelchairs. The structure of this development was originally to accommodate the physical limitations, but it had expanded to cognitive development as well. The concept of UDL has pushed educators to advance their teaching styles because it has been realized that learning comes in different ways and connects through different types of stimuli. With today's world becoming more inclusive, it is important to allow all students in the classroom to connect to new information through many strategies brought on by educators that go beyond the old-fashioned lecture-based teaching methods. It is especially important to these times when online education has become more and more common. Thank you for watching the presentation about UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, and I hope that you've understood and gained some knowledge about this concept and how much the field of inclusion has developed thanks to UDL.